Taxation without representation. This is a principle that, when unfulfilled, led to the start of the American Revolution and the foundation of the United States government as a whole. However, we fail to realize how this maxim that helped to make America what it is today is constantly forgotten when it comes to high school age teenagers. When I was 15 years old, I held my first job as a customer service representative in my dad's office. Before I even knew or could decide how my income taxes were to be used by the United States government, I was obligated to pay 5% of my paycheck to them, without any input on how they could be used. Before the surge of youth turnout in recent elections, only 36% of young people voted in the 2018 midterms, meaning that less than half of American youth were providing an input on the issues that they cared about. However, where voting age is lowered, we see that youth political interest increased significantly. In Tacoma Park, Maryland, for example, the voting age was lowered to 16, and the youth turnout was 4 times higher that of older voters. This shows that lowering the voting age can lead to raised political interest and a higher overall voter turnout. Lowering the voting age will not only lead to a long-term political interest, but also it will allow the youth to input on policies that directly affect them. In this speech, I will first discuss why lowering the voting age could be critical to maintaining the future of our democracy, and certain counter-arguments that encapsulate why changing the voting age has not been as much of a priority as it should be. Now more than ever before in our history, politics has an effect on almost every sector of the population. Yet for some reason, political interest has been dwindling in almost every age group, especially among 18 to 29-year-olds. This trend, if it continues, could lead to a dangerous concept where popular sovereignty is solely upheld by a handful of people, making decisions on behalf of others without any input or choice of their own. Ironically, this is a concept that is already occurring within the United States, where we see middle-aged adults voting on policies like secondary education curricula. A common rationale that people provide for the lack of young people going out to vote is that we just don't care, or that we are too obsessed with ourselves to care about contributing to the pillars of democracy. This is simply only looking at the effect of the main problem, which is political interest. One way to solve this problem would be to lower the voting age according to varying sources. They state that building political interest while we are more likely to be in school learning about the importance of voting is likely to help solidify a lifelong political interest, and thus secure a future where democracy is in the hands of the majority, the way our forefathers intended. The truth is that a lot of the momentum behind changing things for the better comes from younger generations, solely because they have more time and energy to be worried about said issues. The only thing that is preventing them from getting the word out about what could be solutions to these problems is the fact that they aren't able to get their voice out there in a way that matters because of their age. Then once they become of age, they have to now shift their focus to major life changes that go on around the time that they are able to vote, not simply because they are too lazy to take action. Other than lack of self-interest or self-motivation among young people, there have been few other counter-arguments that spring up as a way of protesting against any change to the 26th Amendment. Another primary argument that many cite as a rationale for keeping the voting age at 18 is maturity. However, this is a fairly contradictory argument to make, especially when numerous legal systems across the country have instituted slightly varied versions of Romeo and Juliet laws, which essentially help to prevent sexual contact that occurs between individuals who are 2 to 4 years apart from being considered a criminal offense or statutory rape. Though the situation in this law differs from voting, the fact that this law is even in existence has set a precedent that a 2-year age difference does not constitute a significant enough gap to be deemed more mature or even be charged to the same degree that an adult would be. Outside of legal precedents, There have also been scientific studies that have proved that a person's brain at 18 isn't that much different from their brain at 16. In fact, Dr. Steinberg, a psychologist at Temple University, agrees that the logical reasoning that 16-year-olds are endowed with is just as suitable for the polls as their 18-year-old counterparts. The main takeaway here is this: we should not bar high school age people from being able to provide an input on their lives in the political sphere. The only way to secure a future stronghold of democracy among the rising voting population is by providing them with the ability to be heard sooner rather than later. Building up a democracy that is based upon a majority of young people voting means that the future is truly in the young people's hands, as laws from 50 years ago still have hard-hitting impacts today. So the question that remains is this: how much control can young people really have over their future without their right to vote?